It was a night like any other in the quiet town of Cedar Falls, Iowa, or so everyone thought. But by dawn, everything had changed. Emily Sanders, a young woman known for her bright smile and routine life, had vanished without a trace. No signs of struggle, no calls for help, nothing. What happened to her? How could someone just disappear in a place where neighbors waved hello every morning? The police were baffled, friends were terrified, and the town, once calm and predictable, now whispered in fear. And then came the one critical error, a mistake that would haunt this case forever. A slip, a missed opportunity, a single moment that may have prevented the truth from ever coming to light. Emily Sanders was 28, living a quiet life in Cedar Falls, Iowa, a town where everyone knew each other, and nothing ever seemed out of place. She worked at a local bookstore, spent her evenings with friends, and had a close-knit family who described her as kind, careful, and full of life. What made Emily's case unique wasn't just the disappearance itself, it was the setting. Cedar Falls was the kind of town where doors were rarely locked, neighbors checked in on one another, and crime was almost unheard of. A missing person here wasn't just unusual, it was shocking. The story took a darker turn the moment authorities realized that a single misstep during the initial investigation had set off a chain of events that left Emily's fate a mystery. A simple oversight, overlooked evidence, or a missed call, whatever it was, it meant that the usual trail of clues had already gone cold before the search even began. Friends, family, and the town watched in disbelief. How could someone vanish so completely? And how could a small error have such enormous consequences? This is where our story begins, the disappearance that shook Cedar Falls, and the unanswered questions that still linger. Emily Sanders lived a life that seemed ordinary on the surface, but there were subtle details that made her story unique. She was close with her younger brother Jake, who often described her as fiercely protective and endlessly caring. Her routine was predictable morning jogs through the neighborhood, coffee at the same small cafe, and evenings spent curled up with a book or helping out at the local animal shelter. Neighbors remember her as friendly but private. She smiled easily, waved to passing cars, and often stopped to chat with the elderly residents who lived alone. Yet there was one small, odd habit that stood out. Emily always double-checked her doors and windows before leaving the house, even when it seemed unnecessary. Friends joked about her safety obsession, never imagining it would play a critical role in what happened next. Her life seemed ordinary, almost comforting in its predictability. But hidden in those routines were tiny threads that would later become vital clues. A phone call she never made, a text left unsent, an unfamiliar car she noticed in her street just days before she disappeared. These small, easily overlooked details would become the puzzle pieces in a mystery that no one could solve. It was a cool spring evening in Cedar Falls, the streets bathed in soft amber from the streetlights. Emily had finished her shift at the bookstore and decided to take a walk home, her earbuds in, music playing softly, unaware that this night would change everything. Neighbors later recalled seeing her cross the quiet intersection near Maple Street, her usual smile present, her pace steady. But then, as she approached the corner where the street narrowed, something felt off. An unfamiliar car idling, headlights dim, the engine humming quietly. No one would think twice, except Emily noticed it. She quickened her pace. A shadow moved near the sidewalk, too fast to identify. She glanced back, a slight unease creeping in. The town was quiet, too quiet. And then the sound of footsteps matching hers, but coming from behind, echoing in the empty street. Her phone buzzed with a notification, and she instinctively reached for it, a split-second distraction. And that was when it happened. The one critical error that would haunt the case, the moment no one could reverse. By the time anyone realized, Emily was gone, leaving nothing but her scarf, caught on a fence post, fluttering in the night breeze. The silence that followed was heavy. Neighbors assumed she had just taken a wrong turn, but the feeling of unease lingered. Something wasn't right. And soon, the town of Cedar Falls would awaken to a chilling truth. One of their own had disappeared, and no one knew how or why. The evening air carried a strange stillness, the kind that makes even familiar streets feel foreign. Emily's footsteps echoed softly against the pavement, her usual comfort in routine giving way to a subtle unease. The music in her earbuds, once a soothing escape, now barely masked the faint sounds of the town settling in for the night. The distant bark of a dog, a car door closing, the rustle of leaves in the wind. She noticed the unfamiliar car again. A dark sedan parked just beyond the corner, engine almost silent. The driver's face was obscured in shadows, but Emily's instincts screamed at her. Most would brush it off, but she had an intuition that something was wrong. She kept walking, but glanced over her shoulder more than once, heart beginning to beat a little faster. At the same time, another detail went unnoticed. An old street lamp flickered overhead, casting intermittent shadows that danced across the cracked sidewalk. The flickering made shapes appear where there were none, and for a brief moment, Emily thought she saw a figure lurking between two houses. She shook her head, telling herself it was just her imagination, but the sense of being watched lingered. Witnesses came forward with fragmented stories. One neighbor claimed to see a dark car slowly following Emily. Another swore they heard footsteps that didn't match hers. Yet others insisted they saw nothing at all. Conflicting accounts created confusion, and police struggled to separate fact from speculation. Every lead seemed to branch into a dead end. Meanwhile, Emily's phone records revealed calls and texts that didn't make sense, messages left unsent, calls made to unknown numbers, all within the critical hour of her disappearance. Detectives theorized that someone might have tampered with her digital trail, but without concrete evidence, the case remained stuck in uncertainty. As the days passed, frustration grew. Investigators revisited the scene multiple times, interviewed friends and family, and analyzed every fragment of CCTV footage, hoping for a breakthrough. Yet the one critical error missed at the very start left them chasing shadows. By now, it was clear. Emily's disappearance was not random. Someone had planned it, and every clue that remained was a piece of a puzzle that refused to fit together. Detectives scoured every inch of Emily's neighborhood, but the deeper they dug, the more confusing the case became. Small details that normally would have been routine now felt like vital clues. A door left slightly ajar, a neighbor's surveillance camera pointed in the wrong direction, a street lamp that flickered at the exact time Emily disappeared. All these tiny inconsistencies gnawed at the investigation. CCTV footage from nearby shops was equally frustrating. One camera captured a shadowy figure crossing the street, just moments before Emily vanished. But the image was grainy and distinct. Was it the suspect, or simply a passerby? Every angle seemed to produce a potential lead that dissolved the moment it was scrutinized. Her phone records offered tantalizing hints. Several calls went unanswered, and text messages were left unsent or deleted. Investigators theorized that someone close to Emily, or someone who had been watching her, might have manipulated her communications. The timing was crucial. All activity occurred within the 30-minute window when Emily was last seen. That short period became the focal point of the investigation, yet it remained almost impossible to reconstruct. Witness statements added to the confusion. One neighbor insisted they had seen a man in a hooded jacket near the corner of Maple Street, but couldn't to recall his face. Another claimed they heard a woman scream, but by the time they looked outside, there was nothing. Conflicting stories piled up, leaving detectives to sort truth from imagination. Each lead seemed to vanish as quickly as it appeared, like smoke slipping through their fingers. Even friends and family inadvertently provided red herrings. Emily's younger brother mentioned a stranger who had been lingering near the bookstore in the days before her disappearance. while a coworker hinted at a brief argument Emily had with someone over the phone. Every small detail could have been crucial or a distraction, but with no concrete evidence, the investigation felt like chasing shadows in the dark. Detectives revisited the scene repeatedly, taking meticulous notes, photographing every detail, and testing every theory. Yet the critical error at the start, the delayed response to her disappearance, the overlooked clue meant they were always one step behind. Emily's trail was already growing cold. And then, just when hope seemed to flicker dimly, a subtle discovery emerged. An object out of place, one tiny piece of evidence that had been missed in the chaos of the first frantic hours. It was small, almost insignificant, but it carried the weight of everything. A clue that would soon shift the entire investigation and lead to a shocking revelation that no one in Cedar Falls would see coming. Just when the investigation seemed to hit a dead end, detectives uncovered the detail that changed everything. Hidden in plain sight, overlooked during the initial chaos, was a small security camera tucked inside a nearby convenience store. Its angle was unusual, but it captured the fleeting moment that no one had noticed before. A figure approaching Emily on that fateful night, moving with deliberate intent, their face obscured by shadows. The revelation sent shockwaves through the case. It wasn't a random disappearance. It was planned. The figure wasn't a stranger in the neighborhood. Evidence pointed to someone who had known Emily's routines intimately, someone who had anticipated every move. Further examination revealed another startling detail. The one critical error at the start, the mismanaged timeline, wasn't just a mistake. It had been exploited, intentionally or not, giving the suspect a window of opportunity to act undetected. What had initially seemed like misfortune now appeared like part of a carefully orchestrated plan. The investigators pieced together what little they could. Motives, hidden relationships, subtle conflicts, all pointed to someone close, someone Emily trusted. The quiet town of Cedar Falls, once certain it knew everyone on its streets, suddenly faced the chilling realization. The threat had been among them all along. This twist didn't just reopen the case, it changed everything. Every previous clue, every witness statement, every minor inconsistency suddenly had new weight, hinting at a truth that had been hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to see it. Weeks after Emily's disappearance, the investigation finally bore fruit. Surveillance footage, digital traces, and witness testimonies converged on a single suspect, someone Emily had known personally. Authorities moved quickly, arresting the individual in a quiet suburban home. The arrest executed in the early hours to avoid any confrontation. Court proceedings revealed a chilling picture. The prosecution painted a careful timeline, connecting the dots from Emily's last known movements to the critical error. That had allowed the suspect to act without immediate detection. Evidence was presented, the overlooked phone calls, the subtle surveillance capture, and minor inconsistencies in the suspect's statements, all woven into a narrative of premeditation and concealment. The trial gripped the town. Friends and family attended every session, hoping for answers, dreading the details, and yearning for closure. The courtroom drama unfolded with slow deliberation, tension mounting with each testimony. Forensic experts explained the significance of seemingly small details, showing how they unraveled the suspect's carefully constructed facade. In the end, the jury delivered a verdict that balanced justice with the weight of tragedy. The suspect was found guilty, receiving a sentence that reflected the severity of the crime. But even with a resolution in court, the sense of loss lingered. Emily's absence remained a haunting presence in Cedar Falls, a reminder of how a single critical error can change everything in an instant. The town of Cedar Falls slowly began to heal. Though the shadow of Emily Sanders' disappearance lingered, friends and family mourned what was lost, cherishing memories of her warmth, her laughter, and the small daily rituals that once brought comfort. Her story became a quiet reminder that even in the safest towns, tragedy can strike when least expected. Lessons emerged from the case about vigilance, trust, and the weight of small decisions. The one critical error that had set the course of events reminded the community how easily life can change in a single moment, and how important it is to notice the subtle signs around us. Yet, even as the legal proceedings concluded and the guilty party faced justice, questions remained. Could the timeline have been altered? Could someone else have acted differently to prevent this? The answers may never be fully known, but the story of Emily Sanders continues to resonate, a haunting echo in the hearts of those who knew her. As we reflect on her case, we are reminded of the fragility of safety, the importance of community, and the enduring impact of one life lost too soon. Emily's story may have ended, but the questions it raises and the lessons it teaches linger on. If Emily's story has moved you, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries hiding in plain sight.